Hey, welcome to the first episode of Vinyl Destination. I love the name so much. I'm here with my co-host, my good buddy, Mr. Chris Dalley from many illustrious bands. Let's talk about all the bands. I know the Implants have some new stuff out, which is killer.
Yes,
Authority Zero, your other band has brand new stuff out and coming out. How do you stay so busy, man?
I have to get out of the house. I actually have implants practice in like 3 hours. It's actually kind of funny you said that. It's like we haven't, we've never been in the same room rehearsing these new songs. We all like just send emails and then record them separately. So
I
we're
mean, I know a little bit about that because Fire Sale,
yeah,
we had two 7 inches out before we ever were in the same room with each other.
amazing. It's what technology to is. It's incredible.
It's
But
crazy.
yeah,
It's crazy, man.
yeah, just it's been fun. Just had time. And so Authority Zero is like in the middle of our 30th anniversary, probably the most touring we've done in a long time. And Implant's first album in 11 years. Stoked.
Well, I gotta say, man, I've been an Implants fan all the way back to the beginning when, my current bandmate, Matt Riddle, was in the Implants.
Yep.
And that first record was amazing. I know you and some of the other guys, some of the other guys I haven't really hung out with, but I know them digitally and we
Yeah.
speak quite often. But that first record was killer. I've heard the whole new record because your publicist sent it to me, and it's pretty awesome, I gotta say, man.
It's weird. People are saying there's people that are kind of shocked because it's a little more it's more dark, but it's also got a little more pop to it.
The one thing that I
Um
noticed, and I mean, we can speak a little bit about this before we get into everything else. There were some people that were like pissed that it's not all fast. That's the most dumb bullshit I've ever heard of my life.
I got so much hate before the album was even released, like when we released the first two singles. After we released Shades of Black, I got so many people going, dude, it's not fast. I don't get it. I said, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know that the level of a good song was measured by BPMs. So sorry if you don't like it, but if you don't like it, that means you're not a real music fan. You're just in the fast stuff that makes you want to go 90 miles an hour in your car and kill somebody. So by
That
all means,
that really like took me aback because I was like, wait a minute. All the punk bands that I like, all the bands that I like, they have fast songs, they have slow songs. The songs come out the way that they come out.
yeah,
Like
exactly.
who in 2024 that listens to that kind of music is like, oh, it's not fast enough. Like,
Blown
fuck
away.
those guys.
Like you know what I mean? Sorry if you just go back and listen to your Minor Threat record. Okay, if you don't like what we do, then go.
Well, and I mean, Minor Threat, they wanted to slow down and change things up, and then you had Fugazi. I mean, like people aren't one thing.
Yeah, I think it's pointless to be just one thing. You get stuck in a corner and you become very stale. I'd rather see what evolves with our brains here. So
We've done something kind of cool with the fire sales stuff.
I
The
agree.
we've released on we've like an A side and a B side of the 7 inch, and normally the last two 7 inches, it's been one of my more kind of dissonant, weird mid tempo songs, and then one of Riddle's really fast punk rock songs. So it's like the best of both worlds on one record.
I think that's like what you have to. I think you have to like take people on an adventure. You have to basically not just do this
Yeah.
and take them through the peaks and valleys of life. You know, it's like it's the way I think it works.
I mean, I always bring up if you want things to stay the same, just listen to Slayer, but they even experimented and did stuff of it after a while.
Look at the Diabolos and Musica. That was very different. Even South of Heaven. That was a
Yeah.
slower record, especially after Rain and Blood.
Well, people to this channel, to the that one time on tour, they know I'm a Metallica fan. And the one thing that I always respected about them, I might not have liked all the risks they took, but they took the risks.
They did.
Saint Anger
Well,
is my least favorite record, maybe of all time, but I'm glad they did it because at the time that's where they were.
I mean, the first Metallica song I ever heard was "Fight Fire with Fire." I was
Great
like, it
song.
was, but you know what? My favorite song is "Escape." Slow.
Wait, that is your favorite song?
there's something about that song. I think it's just more the melody of it. The chorus just it just sucks me in. I just love that song. And I think the opening riff is amazing too.
Do
So
you
it's like that.
do you know the story behind that?
I think you were. I think I posted something about it because like it was the 40th anniversary of this year of Red Lightning, and I think I mentioned. I think you said something, but I forgot what it was.
Well, the whole thing with Escape is that Ride the Lightning was still on Megaforce, right?
Yeah.
But they were like, we want to push something to radio. We need something a little bit more single oriented. And they kind of had Metallica go back and write that. And
Huh.
James wrote that almost as like a fuck you, I'm going to write a poppier Metallica song. And he hates it. They've only played it once or twice at those like things where they play the entire record, right? But
Yeah.
when I listened to Escape, when I was growing up listening to Ride the Lightning, that song hit me. Like, I was like, whoa, it's melodic and it's kind of pretty, but it's not
Yeah.
like Fade to Black pretty. It's like something different, you know?
That's why I liked about it. I think it was another side of Metallica that we never saw.
I really think that James probably just hates it because of the stigma of like he felt like he was being pressured to write a
Of
single.
course.
But when you listen to that song, it's like, well, yeah, there's so many, you can almost hear the future, like the hooks and stuff.
Oh
Because
yeah.
you got to admit, like, Kill 'Em All, Ride the Lightning, even Master of Puppets, they're amazing, but there's not a lot of hooks vocally.
No.
That
It's
song,
very
that song has a hook vocally, you know?
I the way I mean, like you like people like say that it's like to make music with colors, like paint with colors.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
Metallica was very, very gunmetal gray. And when you hear a song like Escape, oh, I'm going in, I'm seeing blue here. I'm seeing like these different things.
Do you have any little bit of like synesthesia where you can like you associate things with color? A lot of the times they talk about synesthesia with music, like if you hear a certain song or a certain note or chord, you see a color, or if it's minor, you see a darker version of that. I don't know if I have that with music per se, but I do have that with certain records and certain things from my childhood. I'll start out by saying, like, I don't know why this is, but I associate a color with the days of the week.
Okay,
So like,
makes sense.
and this is off the top of the dome, man. This is my whole life. Monday is red, Tuesday is blue, Wednesday's yellow, Thursday's purple, Friday's green, Saturday's orange, and Sunday's brown. I have no clue why.
I like that. I like the fact that Sunday's brown.
But so, and the thing is with Metallica, and maybe it's just because I'm such a fanatic and I've been obsessed with it my whole life. But like
Yeah,
when I hear a song off Master of Puppets, I see red. When I
yeah,
hear a song off Ride the Lightning, I see blue.
makes sense.
So a lot of people don't really know this. The first Fire Sale 7 inch, it's got like a vampire on the front. It has something to do with one of the songs, Mercy Brown. There's not a lot, it's just a lot of different colors. But then
Yeah,
like the next two, A Fool's Errand was very red. And then the Albatross is very blue. I was trying to like in some weird left wing tribute to Metallica, kind of do that monochromaticism or whatever, like the colors. Do you know what I mean? Where
yeah,
each
of
thing
course.
kind of evokes a color.
Well, it's weird you said red for Master of Puppets because I mean I'm sure you saw the thing back in 2003 when they did the MTV Icons, and I was blown away by what he had realized when he got sober about how Master of Puppets was basically about his drinking. Taste me, you will see.
Yeah.
More is all you need. And I was like, wow, I never really put those things together. I mean, everybody knew they were nicknamed alcoholic for Christ's sakes, but
Yeah. Yeah.
that's I mean, I see that why that would be a red. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
crazy,
Do
crazy.
you have that though with like different records? Because even like, I don't know, like the first Propagandhi record, when I hear one of those songs, like I know it's because I've seen the cover of How to Clean Everything so many times that when I hear one of those songs, those colors like flash in my mind.
There's that. I think that's basically. I mean, whenever I put a record on, I'm immediately drawn to where I first like, kind of like I'm drawn to where I first heard it.
Yeah.
Like I'll like be. I remember like whenever I put on Suburban Teenage Wasteland Blues, I remember me and my friend drove. There was a record store about 5 minutes away from my house, but I we drove 3 cities over just so we could hear the whole thing coming home. and because we were so excited because like I had never really heard, there was RKL that was very metal, but Strung Out had brought a pop sensibility to punk and metal, and the guitar solos were just out of this world. So I just like I wanted to make sure I had that whole drive, put in my cassette player, and off we were. And I remember just like going, oh my god, this is the most amazing thing ever. So it's like I'm more drawn to like where I was when I heard it.
I mean, I can see that, and I do love how certain records there'll be a record I haven't heard in years, and it'll come on my shuffle like on Spotify. Like last night, I went to go get pizza for my kids, and a Screw 32 song came on,
Oh my god, I've heard that
and
name forever.
I was like, oh my god, I used to listen to this nonstop, and then I put the whole record on. I'm like, why did these guys never do like a bunch of like that record was
Yeah,
so good, and it was one of those early, I don't know, first to maybe second generation fat bands. And but that's the thing, man. I don't, I'm not gonna say I have like a memory of when I first heard that, but it does take me back to being in high school
yeah.
and like just hanging out with my buddies and like, you know, Fat Records meant a lot to me. Epitaph meant a lot to me. You and I are similar age. How old are you?
47.
47. I just turned 46 2 days ago.
There you go. Happy birthday.
Thank you very
I
much.
I did a post on social media.
I know I saw it. I appreciate that very much. But the whole thing of like, I feel like there's a resurgence. Like I did this podcast that one time on tour. I started that a little bit before the pandemic. It really caught fire during the pandemic. But getting to speak, I mean, getting to know you and be friends with you is awesome because I like every band you've ever been in. But having
Likewise.
having Jim from Pennywise on and having Fat Mike on and Smelly and Russ from Good Riddance. I'm rocking a Good Riddance hoodie right now. Like having those guys on the podcast, and most of those guys I had met on tour. I wouldn't say we were friends, but acquaintances. If you ask them, hey, do you know this guy? They might say, yeah, I've met him. What? Maybe they wouldn't. I don't know. But having them on the show and speaking with them about their career and the thing you and I are going to bring out in this new podcast, speaking about records that we love so much,
Yeah.
that I don't know. I feel like I went through a time in my life where punk never went anywhere. The music I love, metal and punk, never went away. But
Yeah.
getting to speak with all of those people who I consider heroes,
Yeah.
it was a resurgence in me, and that was the catalyst for like doing Fire Sale and the catalyst for everything in my life now. Music never went anywhere, but now my entire life is revolving around music again.
Yeah.
I'm not
Absolutely.
touring as much as you are, but like my day is packed with I'm either teaching music or I'm recording and writing songs for my band or I'm starting to kick the podcast back off, the stuff you and I are doing. Like I don't think normies, I'll use that title, understand because when I talk to people, I've told some of my students who are way younger, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'm starting this new podcast because some of them listen to my other podcast. And they're like, well, what's it going to be about? And I said, well, me and my buddy Chris are going to talk about the albums that meant the world to us and that changed other people's lives and the genre and the culture and like just big landmark things that mean a lot. And they kind of don't understand it. They're like, what do you mean like album? And I'm like, a collection of songs that are on like because nowadays kids listen to singles and I'm not bashing that. My band puts out singles. But I think that someone like you and I who are so obsessed with music,
Mhm.
they're going to like this new podcast and other
Yeah.
people might be like that's a little too deep. I don't know if I'm going to be into that.
Well, like Chris from Less Than Jake, I thought that was a great idea of him for doing based on songs
Yeah,
and
yeah.
breaking down the writing in the all the songs. I thought that was brilliant, and I thought it was cool. But I've always been a record guy. I've never been one guy to like listen to a single. I love that a record will take you on an adventure, either going back to the Who, Tommy, to today's Empires for Propaganda. They take you on adventures, and I
Well,
love
I,
it.
I think the order of the songs means something
Absolutely.
because I think that you can take like one of your favorite records, but if the sequencing might not be the same, it's still probably going to hit you a certain way because it is the feeling and the passion. But there is that journey, even if it's not a concept record,
Yeah.
like just the way that everything flows into the next song, you know?
Every album I've recorded, and I thought the hard part was the mixing because everybody like has their own notes. Like, okay, I want the bass side, I want the drum side, blah blah blah. But the thing is that everybody argues about always the most is the order of the tracks that we're going
Yeah.
to release. It's amazing. I can't tell you how many times implants on the new record. It was just so much stuff. Like, and I mean, it was like, I mean, it was a good 3 week process, and you have to master it to do the track listing.
Yeah.
It actually takes the longest.
What was did you guys have any ways of kind of figuring that out? Was it a democratic like vote system or
It was a vote thing. I mean, the funny thing was we knew immediately what the closing track was going to be. That was the one thing we all agreed on right away. But was opening with, and then like of course everybody said, well, we want Radio Out to be the first single with El Jefe.
yeah.
Let's have that be the first song. I said, well, I really don't think that's the correct opening track, but I was out, but so
Well,
it's
it
fine.
I want to ask you this too, let some people in on some of the like industry shit. When you we have not had a guest yet, I mean, we're planning on it. We have a couple of people right now that we might do some stuff with, but when you have someone like El Jefe guest on your track, is there a little bit in the back of your mind that's like, wow, if we let this out of the gate first, you might grab a couple of those people that weren't really sure about the band or didn't know the band because they're big No Effects fans.
That was one thing that we were thinking about, but the one thing I totally didn't. I mean, you have to understand when we released that record, it coincided with the last No Effects shows.
Yeah.
And the first thing, and actually probably the most asked thing, especially on the YouTube channel of that video, is, "Oh, this must be El Jefe's new band." No, he's the owner of our label. He does not need to deal with us.
Yeah.
you know, it's like he's the owner of the label. We asked him to do a solo. He wrote a great solo, and he did it. And I mean, that was, I mean, yeah, was it trying to gain more attention? Of course it was, but it wasn't. It's like, ooh, is he now in implants? No.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that then. Like with that, we're gonna cover their records because their
Yeah,
records are very important to you and I both.
absolutely.
How do you feel about it coming to an end, at least from a standpoint of how it's been for the last 41 years? Because I know they're probably
I
still gonna release some stuff. I don't think they're done completely, but I know that Mike is moving on to a new chapter of his life. And I get
I
that.
well, I'm going to ask you the same question, but I mean, how I feel about it was basically, I think, I'd rather have people say, "Why are you breaking up?" than people saying, "Why don't you guys break up?"
Yeah.
Um, I think basically they have been just doing the same thing. I think it got bored for them, boring. It became like very been here, done that, been here, done that, been here, done that. And I just think they probably just it was just time for them to stop. And I mean, I understand why. Um, I've already told Jason from Authority Zero, if you ever say we're doing a farewell tour, I'm saying farewell. I'm
It's
not
not going to
interested
be
in
Ozzy coming back every 2 years after.
or Slayer after 5 years or a Yellow Card. They're after the third farewell tour.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, yeah, I mean, for me, it's taking people for a ride.
Yeah,
Um,
I feel like I'm not like I don't yell sell out or anything like a lot of the punks did back in the day, but like when you are announcing a farewell tour of a band that's been around 30 plus years and then you come back, I feel like it is a cash grab a bit.
is
And I mean, who am I to say, like, fuck it, dude, grab your
yeah,
money, do what you want. But I do feel like if you're going to announce something as like no effects, it's you knew this was their last tour for the last 2 years or whatever. And then it's
absolutely.
finally over. I can see them releasing some songs, doing some stuff, but I don't know. I feel like Mike is checked out. And I feel like even I've read the Spin interview and a bunch of the different stuff. And I feel like maybe some of the other guys weren't quite ready to let it go, but they respect Mike and they probably now that they had that big, huge last show that was so amazing.
Three of them.
Yeah, I think they all are probably on the same page now if they weren't for that.
I would hope so. Like I said, I've always, I mean I was my first band I fell in love with was Kiss.
Yeah.
And when they did their first farewell in 2000, I said farewell.
Yeah.
And when they got back, I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna go see them. I said farewell. And then when they did their second farewell, my wife's one of her vendors, because she does HOAs, they have a box at a venue in Anaheim, and say you want to free ticket to Kiss, I'm like, I'll go, it's free.
Yeah.
And I wish I would just would have. I'm like,
Just
man,
not rehashed it.
yeah, it was, it was. I could tell that some parts were fake.
Yeah.
Um, I was actually at that concert where Paul does a scream, and he was nowhere near the mic. I'm like,
Have
nope.
you have you just side note tangent, have you ever gone on YouTube and listened to the Paul Stanley stage banter? And it's just like
It's over an hour.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
Hello, Dallas. Like it's so great, man.
Everybody's got rock and roll pneumonia, so it's called Dr. Love.
Oh man, great front man.
He is. It's like it's like I said, it's like it's. I was very. The most pissed off I was Slayer. I was, and I'm a
Well,
huge
for the
Slayer fan.
Riot Fest thing,
Yeah,
it's been like what, yes, you said like 5 years, like
I went to the last show in 2019 at the Forum, and I thought, okay, this is really it because how they were doing it at the end, Kerry King took his chains that he was always had his his thing, and he like kind of like did like a mic drop on the chains.
yeah.
Tom's crying after singing the Angel of Death, which is crazy. I thought it was over, and it's like, dude, I spent just so much money on your stuff because I thought I was never going to get merch from you guys again.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that because I've never been the biggest Slayer fan because with me I need some melody. That's just how it's
That
always been.
that's the one band I actually will say that not melody wise. I think maybe that I actually got into them late.
Yeah.
When I first heard them, it was the season of the Abyss video, which actually is pretty melodic.
I mean, yeah, there's some stuff there.
Yeah,
I've never like disliked them. I've never talked shit or anything, but like
yeah.
when they were done and then Kerry King did his like solo band or whatever, I listened to that. I wasn't that into it. And then the next thing you know, they're announcing Riot Fest. And I'm like, you guys just fucking broke up. You just
Hey,
retired.
and they announced it right when he released his record. I'm like, wow, way to kill that record.
Yeah, yeah, right. I don't
It's like,
know.
what to each their own. Whatever you want to do. People. A friend of mine has always said that any band that does a farewell thing, he'll never go see them again. And I said, well, there's one exception in my mind. He goes, I'll never go see Good Riddance again. I said, no, because they didn't really do a farewell tour. They just did 3 shows and said we're kind of done now. They
Yeah.
didn't say farewell. They just did 3 shows and that was kind of it. And I'm glad they're back together. If you heard their last 2 records,
Well, the new record is killer.
it's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I know
It's
they've only
amazing.
released like that one song, but like I said, because I have done a podcast, I haven't lately, but I still get all the emails from all the PR people. So I listened to the whole record the other day and man, it's some of the most melodic stuff I've heard Russ do vocally.
Oh, absolutely. Brandon, our guitar player of Authority, him and Sean Sellers, they were in Bolshoi together, and he was also I replaced Sean in Authority Zero. And so Sean sent the record over, and I was like, his last one I thought was amazing. The one that they
Yeah.
released, very melodic. Some of the slower stuff, I think some of the stuff is like Russ's best songs ever.
Yeah. I mean, it's weird with bands when they put out new stuff because like a band like Good Riddance and a band like No Effects, any band that I grew up with that meant a lot to me, and you might agree with this, you might not. I always listen to the new stuff and normally really like it. But if I'm gonna listen to Good Riddance, I'm probably gonna go back into the catalog. If I'm gonna listen to No Effects, I'm probably gonna go back into the catalog. You know what I mean? Because, like we said earlier, certain things hit you at a certain time in your life and you have that nostalgia, you have those memories. And I'll support the bands I love until they're done. And I listen to the new stuff. Even Metallica, 72 Seasons is pretty badass,
I loved it.
but
I
I
thought,
don't listen to it on a regular basis. I listen to Master, I listen to Justice, I listen to Ride, like
yeah. Well, it's. I mean, it's. There's there's certain bands that I think, like I mean, I mean, obviously, I do my top 20 albums of the year
Yeah.
and all this stuff. So, I mean, I go back and listen to all these things. I mean, I think, like for instance, that last Comeback Kid record is the album I listen to the most. I mean,
Yeah.
it's I've never heard a band that has hardcore, but he's screaming in so melody wise.
Yeah.
And I love that record to this day. I mean, I can't. I mean, my 6-year-old makes me put that record on all the time.
Well, dude, last year, like I was kind of inspired by you. I did like a top, I think I did top 10. I didn't do 20 because I that was too much.
Yeah,
But a band I really used to love, I don't know if you're familiar or not, you might be, and they just put out an EP last year, and I feel like it was some of the best stuff they've ever done. It almost beats the other stuff, was a band called As Friends Rust.
yeah, I know the name.
I mean, like the EP they put, and there's been some lineup changes, and then and certain people are maybe not writing the songs the same as they used to, whatever. But the new stuff they just put out, killer, man. I listen to
Yeah.
that daily, man. I
Well,
mean,
I mean, let's be
sometimes
honest. Yeah.
sometimes you sometimes you put out your best stuff later, and sometimes you put it out earlier, you know.
I think it varies. I mean, like I said, Comeback Kid. I think Flatliners is another band that has still maintained and doing great stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, and also regarding lineup changes. I mean, I know two bands off the top of my head that are still the same lineup. That's Flatliners and Rice.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, and both of those bands are amazing. I love both
yeah,
those bands. And I will tell you, Chris from Flatliners, his contributions to the new Hot Water music,
brilliant,
unbelievable, man.
unbelievable.
I love Hot
I
Water music. I didn't think I could love him anymore,
yeah,
but
yep,
he kills it. And I mean, can you imagine? He's a lot younger than them.
oh yeah,
He goes down and like fills in on that South America tour or whatever because Waller doesn't want to tour.
yep.
And then they ask him to be in the band, and Waller's in the band too. They're all writing together, and then Chuck and those guys are like, "Why don't you sing one or two? Like you're
Amazing.
singing in one of your favorite bands.
I think it is his favorite band.
That's insane.
Yeah, that's like I mean that's how I felt when I filled in for Face
Face
to
to face.
Face.
Oh shit, I remember that, man. That was so awesome.
And as a fan of, like since the beginning, and I mean I was so over Disconnected. Like I was just over. But when he counted it in, we went in and I saw like 10,000 people at Punk and Drum. I'm like, fuck,
Yeah,
holy! I mean that's how I feel like we have to always play Revolution and Authority Zero.
yeah.
I we don't ever have to rehearse that song ever again. When we play it and I see the crowd going nuts, how I feel about it dissipates. You
Well,
know, I
I will tell you, Authority Zero for me, like I've always been a fan. I like Jason's vocals. I like his lyrics. You know, the old kind of more ska reggae tinge stuff. I always dug because I was a Sublime fan, and I liked, you know, a little bit of the 311 stuff back in the day. But you guys, the last couple things you've put out, I think are some of the best stuff the band's ever done.
I feel so too. I mean, I think a big part of that is Mike Sparrow, our bass player.
Yeah.
He, I think what he brings out the best in Jason and vice versa. The funny thing was Authority Zero. I mean, kind of a funny story about them. What I know is that I first saw them before they were signed. We were playing a show, this place called Jugheads in Phoenix, and it
Okay.
was a punk rock bar. And my band Poorhouse at the time went there to play, and Authority Zero played before us. And they were a Pennywise cover band, and I thought they were great. But I'm like, okay, well, hear what your stuff sounds like eventually. And then I just was driving in LA, as we say in Authority Zero, LA.
I'll
So LA. So I was driving around there, and all of a sudden I'm listening to K Rock. Goes, here's a new band from Tempe, Arizona called Authority Zero. I'm like, what? And one more minute comes on. I'm like, well, that totally changed.
yeah.
It's so reggae and ska. I'm like, wow. And so the funny thing was, I really didn't get into them until 1234, which is like I think a more straight ahead rock album.
Yeah.
Um,
See, I always
so
kind of
it's
just thought they were a ska punk band. And I mean,
well, yeah,
there's still that's still there,
yeah.
but there's I mean, I'm more into kind of the faster punky stuff. Give me a second, I gotta turn my heater off. It's really hot in here.
Oh yeah, I know where you are. It's kind of cold there.
Yeah, man, it's October in Indiana. It's not great. It's not bad though. It's just my studio that I'm in holds cold air like really bad. So
Oh
like it,
wow.
it got down to 38 last night. So when I came into the studio today, it's like 65, 70 out right now, but the studio was like 48 degrees. So I
God.
turned the heater on and I'm sitting here and I'm talking around with fun. And I look at my little thing and it's like, oh, it's 78 in here. I probably don't need to have the heat on anymore.
It's 90. It was 93 yesterday here in Cali.
Oh yeah, I
Like
always hit up Riddle and he's like, "What's the weather like where you're at?" I'm like, "Shut up, man."
it's like,
Another couple months, it's gonna be freezing here, man.
yeah, it's gonna be freezing. Well, the funny thing
How
is, my
how
wife
is
and I,
Jason gonna do it? Jason's in Indiana now, right?
most of the time, yes, and so he loves it. I mean, when you live in a place where it's basically 100 degrees is considered a nice day.
Yeah,
I mean, we're actually, my wife and I are talking about moving out there as well.
dude. If you move out here, we'll have so much fun.
Yeah, it's me. It'd be amazing. I mean, I've already
It's
talked. I mean, my
it's
wife's already sending
cheap.
me like,
It's safe.
yeah,
It's nice, man. I mean, you never. I think I told you we were hanging out in Canada. Like, you never have to look for parking. Like,
amazing,
it's. I woke up this morning. I live in town. I woke up this morning and looked out in my backyard, and there were 4 deer out there.
amazing.
Pretty awesome, man. Indiana, I tried to get out my whole life, right? And once I got out, I wanted to come back because it's like, oh, it's I don't remember anybody getting shot in Indiana on the side of the road. I don't remember anybody breaking into my car when I lived in
No,
Indiana, you know?
I mean, it's like, I mean, I've lived in California all my life, but it's like I've never just, I don't go to the beach.
Yeah.
I saw Jaws as a kid. I won't go there. Um, I don't go to the mountains because I should never be on a board with wheels or snowboard of any time. I am just a huge klutz. Hence why am sitting down when I'm playing drums. I know I'll probably fall and be a moron.
Man, I'll tell you, that's one thing. You're playing a lot of shows. You've probably not been out of shape show wise for a long time. When Fire Sale started like becoming a real band and we had to like go play shows, I was rehearsing the entire set sitting down for like 3 months. And then our first show was in Dallas, Texas, like 2 years ago. And I get there and everybody's so excited. And then oh wait, I got to stand up. And like the strap on my guitar felt weird, and I didn't know where my pedals were. And I felt like one of those like wind up monkeys, like on the Duracell commercial, like the whole time I was playing. So now I always rehearse standing up, so I feel better about it.
Are you guys going to do anything at all like in Europe? Because I mean, I know you guys are out there, music
Yeah.
wise.
Um, right now we are speaking with a couple different agents over there that are interested. We have a lot of interest from a lot of festivals, but we can't go over there for like a month or two. We have to go over there for like maybe 2 weeks tops, right?
Yeah.
Because we all have jobs and mortgages and kids and
Well, I mean, like bands like Chaser, I mean, that's like bands that go out there for like 2 weeks, and so because Mike is a
yeah,
firefighter,
yeah.
that's what he does for a living. So I think, I mean, you guys should definitely get out there. I mean, implants, we're going to try to do some stuff. I mean, Ken's higher up at Bank of America. That's why we can't tour.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's the thing. I would love I know we're gonna go to Europe, hopefully next year. Like we're talking to a lot of the bigger festivals that are kind of within that same little week or two area. There's a
Mhm.
lot of interest, especially after playing Music for Cancer. It's almost like we played that and had a good response, and other places started taking us more seriously. They're like, "Oh wow, you played there, and we saw the pictures, and there were a lot of fucking people. So now we want you to come play our place," which is great.
Yeah,
And we want that to happen, but there's been a lot of interest in Australia. Recently, there's been some interest in South America, which I want to do because I've played down there a lot. I love it in South
me
America.
too. Me
It's
too.
amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing out there. I mean, I South America is probably the most interesting because
The
to
fans are
me it's
so
exotic.
it's exotic, but then too, I mean, that's awesome because I love traveling and going to like crazy places and different cultures and stuff like that. But when you play in South America and you're in a punk band, like I
Yeah,
thought Eastern Canada is amazing.
amazing.
You like make that times 100, that's Brazil.
Yeah,
That's, Peru, Chile, like all those places.
All this. Have you ever played Costa Rica?
I've been to Costa Rica many times. There is a company that has talked about wanting us to come down, but they haven't pulled the trigger yet. I want to play there.
I'll tell you this much right now. We fully played there, and we started playing about Reputation, the first song we started playing. And I kid you not, Chris. And there's a video on YouTube. Look up fully at in Costa Rica. They are louder than we are. I mean, I could not believe it. I was just wondering, oh, dude. And I mean, I think I talked to one person in English out there the whole time, but they knew the words.
Yeah.
It's like it's the universal language, man. It's amazing.
Well, I mean, that's the thing too. There are these pockets of places in the world that I know Fire Sale would do well. Like one of our biggest streaming markets is Japan.
Oh yeah,
And I mean, that's a place where you can go for 3 to 5 days and play some really good shows and you don't lose your ass money wise. And
yeah.
I mean, and there's been a lot of interest there. We have to do it kind of, I don't know. I think we just have to be a little bit more economical with everything because we want to do things that are going to help us move forward. Like we've had offers like, hey, come do, you know, a week with, I can't name the name of the band, the bigger band in like the Midwest or on the West Coast. And it's like the guarantee was not great, but we're not trying to make a bunch of money from the band. It's a
Of
passion
course.
project.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to do it, and some of the other guys really wanted to do it. And then we were talking with our label and our agent, and we're like, well, playing in, you know, Pomona on a Wednesday night, is it really gonna do much? Like when we could save that time that we were going to be gone for that and maybe do more in Europe or go do Japan. Like we did, dude, we did Music for Cancer. We played those 2 shows in Quebec. That got us more buzz on streaming and press outlets and other festivals than anything we've ever done. And it was just a weekend.
Yeah. God.
So we just try to figure out our labels really involved and like they really care about us and they're almost like the sixth member of the band. Like they're really, really pushing to make sure that we do things that are smart. So
Yeah.
like, yeah, we're gonna do Europe, but it has to be kind of the right way to do it. We want to do Japan. We are with P Records now down in Australia, and they've shown interest in bringing us down there. So
Nice.
there's a lot of stuff on the horizon for Fire Sale, but we've had a lot of offers to do a lot of stuff, but none of it's made sense.
Question is those festivals are two of them maybe Black Rock and Punk Rock Holiday.
Possibly.
Those are that's what that's the time we're out there next year.
Well, here's one thing that you should do. You should get us to play some of the side shows and it'd be a lot easier for us to get over there. I'm sure you're going to do
Well,
side shows, right?
you know Steve from Belvedere, who's
I
he's our
do, and
agent.
Steve likes our band, but every time I talk to Steve, he's like, "Oh, I got so many bands, bro."
Well, I think right now he's starting to get overwhelmed because I mean I know I will not name bands, but I know there's been big bands that have asked to be
Yeah.
him to do it. He's like I can't.
Well, and
Um,
that's the thing. Steve's been on the show. I know Casey pretty well and Ryan, like all those guys. They're great dudes.
Great
And
dudes.
and Steve, he's heard Fire Sale. He likes it. We were talking at Music for Cancer. It's just I don't want to like keep like, hey man, come on, dude, come on. Because there are other people that have shown interest, and I actually have a couple meetings with a couple agents over in Europe. And but I would love to work with him because he just kind of covers everything.
Well, I'll tell you this much right now. We are joining up with them next week. We're doing that tour with Matt Caddy's and Belvedere. I'm going to chew on his ear because I love. Look, there's already no denying that our bands match well.
Dude,
We were having a great time at
I don't
Music
think
for
you
Kids
even understand. Like when, okay, so we hung out that whole day, right, on
all
Saturday.
day. Yeah,
And then when we left, you were still kind of hanging out. I think you guys were bailing too because you had to go. You playing somewhere the next day. You guys had another week of tour or whatever.
yeah. We had another 8 days. No, no, sorry, 2 weeks.
But yeah, so like we went back to where we were staying and we had to get up at like 6 a.m. to go to the airport. But Riddle and I and the other guys sat there and talked about how rad it would be if we could just get in a van and keep hanging out with Dally and all those guys. And then like Riddle and I were like, okay, so like Yordi and like all those dudes that were there, I'm like, how
Yeah.
rad would it be if it was like Chaser and Fire Sale and Authority Zero and Urethane and like we just had like I, I don't know. I mean, it's not possible to have that many bands do a bunch of shows together unless they're festivals, but I was just like, how rad of a time it would be if we just all got to hang out every night.
Well, that to me, I mean, that'd be a possibility, like just to do a week of shows with those
Yeah.
four.
Yeah.
Um, I think there's enough of a audience of each band where it would actually do well.
I was really like, because look, my thing is I've been in the quote unquote scene or industry or whatever for a long time. I've been in a lot of bands. Fire Sale, I kind of we feel like the freshmen, you know what I mean? Because everybody else has kind of been around for a while. But one thing that I realized when we were all hanging out, I'm like, oh, these are like the people that I talk to all the time on the internet. They're all doing the same shit. All our bands sound really good together and would fit together. I felt like I was at a high school reunion and some of those dudes I'd never met in person. Do you know what I mean?
It's
Like,
amazing.
I'm sitting
Yeah,
there talking to Yordi for like an hour
yeah,
about stuff that like how I don't know you, but I know you.
yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing is, I mean, I think if you brought up those four bands right there, and I mean, the four of us, yes. Is there one thing that is ties us all together? Yes, but do we sound like each other? Not at all.
I don't think, dude, that's the thing. You know, Fire Sale playing a gig with Authority Zero would be rad and it would fit, but there's no one that's going to be like, which band is this? Because we do not sound.
Well, I like. This is. I mean, and you know this too. I mean, especially when club shows in the '90s, when punk blew up in like '95, '96. If you went to go see Good Riddance, chances were the three opening bands were carbon copies of Good Riddance.
Oh yeah, yeah, totally.
But I mean, some places like Showcase Theater in Corona, which is like is a famous place where I saw so
Dude,
many bands.
I've played Showcase. I love
Yeah,
it. I wish it was still there.
me too. I mean, I played the last show. I was the last band there.
Oh, I didn't know you were the last band to play. What band was
Like
that?
Death by Stereo.
Oh shit. Okay.
We they did a weekend of shows where it was all this stuff, and then us and Seosin, and but Death by Stereo was the last band, and I remember taking my drums off stage and watching them take the stage down. Like this is an end of an era. This is like where I first saw Gibbard. This is where I first saw Strung Out. It's where I first saw Maze for a Name. All these bands, like
Dude,
maybe mainly the '90s bands.
I have a really cool story about Showcase. So
Okay,
the first time I played there was with my high school band on our first time ever out west, right? I don't remember anything about it, but I do remember that like we had a day or two off after that, and the next night AFI played.
oh,
And it was like before Black Sails came out. Like that
yeah,
AFI at Showcase. I think
oh
there's a
yeah,
video on YouTube of it. And I just
there
remember,
is.
yeah, I remember thinking like this venue is so amazing. Oh my God. I don't even remember our show. Like, fuck our show, whatever. And I saw AFI and it was so great. And then I went back years later and I played with this band that was on Fearless. I played bass for called Brazil.
Yeah,
And then I think maybe the Ataris played there. I can't remember if we did or not. When I was in the band, I know they probably played there, but I can't remember
yeah.
exactly the last time I was there. But yeah, that venue, it meant a lot to me. And I'm not even from there, man. I'm from the fucking middle of the country. I love that venue.
The one time I saw Screw 32 Showcase Theater.
Screw 32. Meta, it's all coming back, man. Talking about Screw 32.
Well, it's weird you bring this up because like we're talking about records, but also I remember like Fearless Records that put out, I mean, the bands that everybody knows, Bigwig,
Yeah.
Whitecaps, and then they got other bands that got bigger, like Plain White Tees and all this stuff. But like they had signed a ton of really good bands that unfortunately broke up right after their first record came out, and I think that's what happened to Screw 32. You signed a band because you like the music, and but you put these guys on tour who have never toured before. It's a
Yeah.
different monster. I mean, bands like Glue Gun, Blunt, um, Drunken Public, Bob Becker signed all these bands and broke up after their first record. So he loved my band, who saw us at Showcase Theater opening up for Pulley, and he loved our band. And he goes, "But I want you guys to tour a little bit."
Yeah.
And we broke up 8 months later because our main songwriter wanted to start an emo band.
Well, I mean, when
And
you think about like the major labels the way they used to be back in the day, they would do like uh deals where they would like see how it went. You know what I mean? Like you would do a demo and then you'd go play some shows and the development deal. That's what it was.
Yes, it was.
I don't think that the independent labels could really ever wrap their head around that because they don't have the funds or the resources to do that. So when you're Fat Mike or you're Bob or you're Joe Escalante or whatever, and you see a band you
Yeah,
like, you sign them, and then 2 months after the record comes out, they don't exist anymore. That's a risk, you know what I mean? I mean, there's a lot of bands like that.
yeah.
Look at early Kung Fu records. I mean, hell, buddies of mine and yours, Longfellow, one of my favorite fucking bands.
Love that band. I think And So On was one of the most unsung hero records of all time.
That's gonna have to be a record we do.
Oh, we will. I'll talk. Doherty said he would do it right away.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's the thing. Like you and I together know those dudes. We could bring them in for that.
Easily, easily. I
Dude,
mean,
I
it's
saw them at a UFW hall or a VA whatever VA some little
VFW.
VFW, not UAW. Yeah, I saw them at a fucking Union cart. No, yeah. I saw them at, I guess you think it was like a firehouse or something in Warsaw, Indiana on that tour. The first time I think they ever came this far east. And that's when
Wow.
I first, they were playing with some friends of mine in another band from here.
Huh.
And I saw them and loved it. And I bought the vinyl and I've been a fan ever since. And then they did Sedera and they did all this stuff. Like, fucking love that band, man.
Well, that was a weird thing. That band that I told you about, Lightweight, we played the release party for And So On. Our guitar player, who became the emo guy, was tight friends with those guys forever. And we started playing shows with them like crazy, and we did the release party. And I thought, okay, this band's gonna blow up because I saw how Assorted Jelly Beans had kind of gotten known
Yeah.
for Kung Fu. But the thing was, I think it's just when you start signing a lot of bands in your tiny label, there's only so many resources you can go out and do stuff.
Yeah.
There's that Liberation Records. What band do you know from that one? The first homegrown record. That's business. But then in
Yeah.
my mind, there's a band, Donuts of Glory, which I thought was
Donuts of
the
Glory is great. That record they put out on Fat was so good.
SoCal's version of Propaganda.
Yeah. It's awesome.
And but there's so many of these bands that got, I think, in and over their heads, and didn't have the resources to take care of everything. So I think that's
I also think that this might be weird, but like, I feel like guys like you and I, and even Riddle, even though he claims sometimes he doesn't want to play music anymore. Like I feel like there's like lifer guys where like even if you weren't touring, you'd be doing something. You'd be doing the piano bar stuff that you do. Like music would be a part of your life. Even before I was playing in Fire Sale, I was still teaching guitar and producing for bands and mixing and like
yeah.
there are people that are lifers and then some of these guys that like, oh, we have some really good songs and a label comes and sees us and then they put out a record. Like maybe some of those dudes aren't that way. They're just doing it because they're having fun and then it just falls apart. You know what I mean?
Well, Rob. A really good example of a guy who's like bigger than both of us, Rob Ramos from Strung Out.
Yeah.
He had said basically during the pandemic, the pandemic was basically where they said, we really don't want to tour anymore. Um, Rob is in the film union. That's what he does. He does grip work for TV shows and movies, and he makes very, very good money. And he's like, well, I just started doing that, and I just kept on doing that. And so, but when they released the record and they started getting offers, now he's loving it again. He's back.
Yeah.
Strung Out toured a bunch this year, and they're still doing it next year as well. So it's like, it's you could try to like get away from it, but it's not easy to get away from.
I mean,
Especially if it's in your soul.
dude, that was the thing. Like I hadn't, during the pandemic, that's when I started kind of writing the shells of some of the first Fire Cell songs. And I hadn't written a song in a decade or more.
Yeah,
And then when people started like liking it and like there was interest, I'm like, can I do this again in my 40s? Like, is it gonna happen again? And then I just feel so lucky and just so like we talk about it all the time, the guys in my band. And I know you feel about it. I know Jason and those guys probably feel the same way. Getting to be, I mean, just say it middle age, because I mean, hopefully
yeah,
I'm gonna live to be in my 80s, whatever. I mean, if I die 92, I guess is what I'll be. Yeah, I'm middle age. I'm probably over middle age. But
yeah.
like, Riddle's in his 50s. I'm in my 40s. The other guys are in their 40s. I don't care if we ever play an arena or hang out with Dave Grohl or whatever, like I'm just so happy that I'm in my mid 40s. I get to write something in my little tiny studio and then people listen to it and maybe they hate it, but at least they're going to, I mean, it's just so great to still be able to do it. And I think it gets back to why we started doing music in the first place before there were buses or catering or even playing outside of our own fucking state we live in. Like, why did we do it? I did it because I love music. I know you're the same way.
Well, that's the weird thing is, I have one bucket list left that I said this on record that I will never ever go to Red Rocks until I play it.
Okay.
Red Rocks is just I saw a buddy of mine had the VHS of the 311 enlarged show detail, and it showed them playing. And like I said, I'm not the biggest 311 fan, but I mean I respect them, and they're
Yeah.
that's another band. All five guys still same original members. Pretty amazing.
Peanut's been on my podcast. He was the greatest. He was so much fun to hang out with and talk to, man.
Yeah, I mean, I know I gained a whole new level of respect for them after I watched that video. But it's them playing Red Rocks, and the funny thing was they played that day that they played Red Rocks. They were playing the Weenie Roast here in California, where Kiss reunited with the makeup. And I was at that show. They were the first band that went on at noon, and they had to leave and fly to Red Rocks.
Wow. I think
Um,
I remember on that in largest show detail, they were talking that story where on their drive out to California when they first moved out there before they had a deal or anything, they
yep,
stopped at Red Rocks and like looked out from the stage and said, "We're gonna play here one day." And
yep.
then 10 years later or 5 years or whatever it was, then they were back playing it.
It's amazing, and I mean that's one place I still said I'm like I want to play there before I'm done. But the thing is, I mean, like you're right. I mean, when it comes to I I don't think people understand like when I'm on stage, it's an I call it an hour long orgasm. Because
I get it,
I'm not
man.
I'm not thinking about mortgage payments. I'm not thinking about
No.
problems in my life. Mental health things. I'm so escaped on. I'm so not anywhere else but in that moment. And it's like that's to me that's all worth all the driving, the crappy hotels, the crappy roads when you're trying to rest,
Yeah.
especially in the nice little Midwest. I love the salt.
Dude, they're doing construction down the street from my house where I have to go to take my kids to school. They've been doing it for a year and a half, and it doesn't look like anything has changed. Like what are you doing? I never even see people working there. It's just signs and I don't know. It never
There
ends.
was actually a big to do in L.A.
I'll lie.
L.A.
Were you on the
But there was a big,
405?
well, they caught these guys, the construction workers. They were all boozed up. There was a
While they
big
were
thing
on the
about it.
job?
Yeah. So no wonder why nothing was getting done. They're all fucking drunk out of their minds. Like, you dumbasses. You're wasting our money right now.
Only in LA.
Oh, I know. And that's why I don't want to be here anymore.
Star, what's that? You heard the SNL skit with Fred Armisen where they're like, "You take the
Really?
405, go to La Cienega." By the
It's
way, everybody out there listening, I didn't just say the N word. I was saying the road in California.
yes, yes. I know where you're talking about. Yes,
A lot of
but
people might not have been out there. I don't know.
yeah,
Don't want to get canceled for saying the name of a street.
yeah. And I swear to you, it's actually a street name.
Yeah.
It's,
Can you
it's
can you
actually on the
say
way
say it so then we're even?
La Cienega.
There you go.
Yes, it's a big street. It's associated with Dodger Stadium, so
Yeah,
you're fine.
yeah.
So
Uh, so dude, I really think this podcast is going to be a lot of fun. Like this is what I wanted the first episode to be. I just wanted to fucking talk to you and like
yeah,
I know how much we love music and I'm sure there's going to be places like I'll be straight up. I was never that into Kiss.
yeah.
I'm not saying I dislike them. I'm not saying that, there's a lot of Kiss songs I dig, but there's going to be some places I know there's a lot of overlap, but there's going to be some bands that maybe I say that maybe you're not. Like I really like Lucero. How do you feel about Lucero?
I think they're great.
Okay. Some people
I
are like polarized on that because they're like, I don't like the vocals or whatever.
no, well, the thing here, I think they're great. I don't own a record. I'll tell you
Yeah.
that much. but I'd be interested to know more about them. And of course, you find that out. I mean, it's like I people like say about Kiss, like, oh, well, rock and roll night. I'm like, go listen to Creatures of the Night and then come back to me.
Well, yeah, but I mean, even them saying "Ooh, rock, those are all those singles that were huge are great fucking songs, man.
Yeah, I mean, were some of the songs appropriate for a 6 year old like me to listen to? Probably not.
Probably
I mean,
not.
I didn't understand what because when I go through her, it's like a hot knife through butter. I'm like, oh, let's talk about food. No,
Dr. Love. Well, I was trying to think, man. I was in a band that I'm gonna have to bring this back for a next episode. I don't remember the name of the song, but I was in a band when I lived in Alabama and we did a cruise. We did the Monsters of Rock cruise. We were like a cover band that played in the bar downstairs of the ship.
okay,
And I didn't get to pick anything on the set list, but somebody was like, we did Cult of Personality by Living Color. We did I Don't Know by Ozzy. Like we did a bunch of
yes,
cool stuff, but then there was a Kiss song, and I for the life of me cannot remember the name of the song, but it was so much fun to play.
okay.
I'm gonna have to do some digging to figure out what it was because there's a million Kiss songs. I don't know,
Oh, there's
but that
over 24 Kiss records.
yeah, yeah. I think I really like what they did, and I don't know the full story. I'm sure you can fill me in on some of it, but when they did like each member had their own record.
Yeah, in '78. Well, that was away from them not breaking up. That was what it was actually. It was actually their manager's idea to because every one of them sang.
So
And
so that is that where Beth came from?
no, Beth is when it started kind of fracturing. Oh my God, Peter had the biggest hit in the band, Paul and Gene's egos and all that stuff. And
Is that still that's still probably the biggest hit they had, right? Charting wise,
America, yes, but worldwide was I was made
worldwide.
for.
Oh, their disco song.
I can't stand
I
that song.
was made for
Oh
loving you, babe. I mean, that's still, even though it's cheesy and as a Kiss fan, you might not dig that song. That's a pretty good, catchy fucking song, man.
yeah, I never liked it. That's the first song on the record.
That's the first song on the record.
Yeah, so I just got started number two.
So, what did you think when they took the makeup off, like in the 90s?
No, '80s, '83.
Was it 80s? Yeah, I don't even
Yeah.
know.
I was a fan. I thought it was great. I bought the record. Well, I had a way of my mom and dad never spoiled me. I had to go sell avocados to my neighbors because we had an avocado tree.
Yeah. I don't know. I love the fact that you can
But
educate me a little bit more on Kiss.
what's up?
You can educate me a little bit more on Kiss because I would
I
like to
will.
know a little bit more.
But like I said, the solo albums were actually meant to keep them, you know, keep them together, but actually made it worse because
Yeah.
Ace's album was like the biggest selling album, and like
Well, yeah,
that probably hurt
think
Gene
about
Paul.
that. Their manager's like, okay, you each get your own record, but then all those records are going to sell different quantities and people are going to have their feelings hurt and there's going to be all
Oh
kinds
yeah,
of shit. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it ended up fracturing the band more to death. So I mean, who knows?
Do
But
you
yeah,
know
we'll
what's
definitely get
cool?
all of
Do
it.
you know what's cool about all this stuff we're talking about? It all goes into what the podcast is about.
Exactly. It's all about the records.
It's so broad. We could talk about
It's
anything we
like
want.
that's what it's like designed to do.
Okay, so let's finish it up with a couple things then, okay?
Yeah.
Um, are there any records that you are anticipating in 2025 that you can tell me a little bit about? Other than, the stuff you're doing. We love Implants, we love Authority Zero. We know that.
Oh, those were already out. I'll
Yeah.
tell you right now, I've already heard it, and it's incredible. Is the new Bad Cop, Bad Cop?
Really?
Yeah, Lynn sent me the record. Holy, it's the first record that Fat Mike's had no involvement in. It's them. It's Bad Cop, and it's their best ever. And I'm so
Did
blown.
anybody produce it or is it self like
I didn't ask that. I just she made that point though. Lynn was Fat
no
Mike had
Fat Mike?
no Fat Mike.
I wonder how that's going to be, man, because I mean, like, no offense to Mike, he does great stuff, but I do feel like the bands that I'm friends with that have had a lot of success on Fat, it seems like he's always involved somewhat, at
Yeah.
least giving notes and
Well,
added here and this here.
one of my favorite records of this year was the new Make War record, and even though he had nothing to do with the production, he had to say on the track listing.
Oh, like the sequencing?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean,
So,
like we
but
said earlier, that can be a huge man.
absolutely. I mean, my backup is is the album. I can't wait for everybody to hear. It's brilliant.
Well, is there anything you're anticipating you haven't heard yet that you know is gonna like? I'll tell you straight up. I know Propagandi's dropping a record.
Yes, that one I cannot wait for. I
I
mean,
can't
Propaganda
wait.
always. It's as a drummer watching George just get better. I'm like, no, he can't get better on the next record, and yet he does. I'm like, what is with you?
When you watch them live, and I've seen them live so many times, but I remember the last time I saw them was in Florida before the pandemic. Like probably the last time they were down there. I was down there doing something and I went and saw them. I've seen them so many times and it never changes, but like, man, I just the whole show I was just transfixed on Jord. And it's like he's trying to decide where he's gonna go eat after the show. Like he's doing the most insane fills and the time signatures are shifting, polyrhythms, all this stuff. And it's just like his body's just doing all this stuff. He's like, am I going to go to White Castle? Or am I going to, like, he's just, I don't understand how someone can be that good on drums. And it's so powerful and so
Yes.
strong and consistent on every hit, you know?
Well, I mean, I know I haven't heard it. No, I've heard a demo of what might be on the record, but I know probably late next year will be the new Belvedere record, and
I
I
can't
cannot
wait
wait to
for
see what those
that.
guys do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, that's one thing too. Does Steve do most of the riff writing and like the music shit?
Casey does a lot of it. The
See, that's
drummer.
that's what I thought. Casey and I have a cover song coming out very soon. I can drop some knowledge right now. It's Chris from Fine Dining, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I've done a bunch of stuff with him. I've done Descendant song and a Thrice song and whatever. Well, Casey, me, Bart from Straight Line, Lil Joe from Lagwagon,
Oh God.
Battery by Metallica.
Ooh.
And
Okay. I can't wait
and
to hear that.
and Casey went up like 8 BPM. It's faster than the record. So here's the thing. Okay, so I get it. I'm doing the leads.
Yeah.
I'm doing all the lead work. So I get it after Casey did the drums and Bart did the rhythms. And then there's some rhythm stuff I have to double. And then I'm also doing the leads. So I get all my rhythm stuff doubled. And I'm like, oh, that wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be. I've been playing the song since I was 15, like whatever. Then
Yeah.
it came time to do the leads, which I feel fairly confident with. I had like this mixture of like keeping it the way Kirk did it, but adding some my own juice in there, you know. But then I was like, oh wait, it's 10 dB fat or 10 BPM faster. I was already like at my ceiling of how fast I can play the leads. It was, let me just say that there was a lot of editing on the
Well,
solos.
I did one with him too. We did a AFI. We did a
Oh
Quantum
yeah.
Fiber.
Yeah, yeah.
But did you ever hear the one that we did with the Mikey Mizuki with the Metallica song we did?
I probably did.
It
What
was
what
me. It was me and the guy Mikey who played bass on the song. Ian Fowles from Aquabats playing guitar, and then Dave Pino who was in Andrew WK, and then the singer from No More Black, and we did Motor Breath,
Oh shit, yeah, I do remember that.
and that was fun. I mean, I here's the thing. I don't think Lars is a bad drummer.
No.
I
I
I
think
think
he is perfect for the band he's in.
I think he can sometimes get a little phone in lazy, but
Yeah.
he's not that bad. But I mean, people were saying on the thing like, "Oh my God, Metallica with a good drummer." I'm like, stop it.
I don't know if you pay much attention. I'm still such a fan. Like I watch all the videos and the YouTube stuff. There was an interview recently with James Hetfield for their magazine. So what is what they're like
Okay,
the
yeah,
big magazine. They still put it out every month for their fan club, whatever. But they were interviewing James and one of the guy interviewing Stefan Shirazi, who's like the guy that is their editor for their magazine. He was like, Large has been sounding really good as of late. The live stuff, nailing the double bass stuff. He feels like he's really been working. And James goes, yeah, this is the first record he's rehearsed. And this like Stefan, the guy interviewing him, starts laughing. And then James is like, no, this is the first record on like there he's rehearsed for the shows ever. And when you
Well,
listen, I mean, I never, when I was young, I was like, it's Metallica, and Lars does fit with them probably. I've seen the show where Lars got hurt or whatever, and like Lombardi and all those guys played with them, and
yeah,
it was great. It was fucking great.
yeah.
But when Lars plays with them, it's Metallica. It's almost like a stylistic thing. It's like I don't think Slash is the greatest guitar player in the world, but he has his own style, and when you hear him, you know it's Slash. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Same with Ace Frehley. I mean, how many
yeah.
people have been influenced by Ace Frehley? And he's not. I mean, he's not the world's greatest player, but like, I mean, I've always been a huge fan. I don't mind doing 1,000,000 notes a minute every once in a while if it's in good taste. But
Well,
I
I mean,
want a song within a song.
if it makes sense, right? Like
Yeah, if it
I've
makes
always
sense.
I love shreddy guitar stuff, but the one thing that I try to do, and the one thing that I like to listen to from other people, you can shred all you want, but it's got to serve the song.
Absolutely.
It has to make the song better, not those, because I always I'll send demos to the guys in fire sale, and I'll just get like frustrated on a bridge or something, and I'll just like shred the fuck out of the bridge. And most of the time they're like, ha ha, yeah. And I'll say, yeah, just put a vocal line there. I know I'm just being stupid. We have a song called Vultures where I did that. I did this big
Yes.
tapping thing the whole
Yeah.
bridge. And it's not like Ingve or anything. It's just normal fucking, if you know how to tap and you've been playing guitar for a year, you can do it. But I
Yeah.
sent it to him and they liked it. And Pedro was gonna put words there, but he didn't because he liked the tapping, and that just stayed. And that was just a fucking goofy thing I did on a whim because I thought it was funny.
I mean, like I said, if it's in good, like anything, a drum fill, if it's in good
Yeah,
taste,
if it
you know,
fits with the song and it kind of pushes the idea of the song forward or whatever, like serves the song, like we said, that's great. But I just mindless shreddy stuff. That's one thing that I love about early thrice stuff and
yes.
and the stuff like the strung out stuff. It always felt like it meant something.
Yeah.
It
I
didn't
mean, and that's
feel
what
like it
I
was mindless.
well, I feel like on the new Implants record. I mean, there's that song "Never Know" that I think Rob delivered probably one of his best guitar solos ever. And I actually got interviewed for it yesterday, and I said, and I anybody that knows me and you know me, I'm a Dodger fan, and I said, he Freddie Freeman that drum solo because Freddie Freeman is just hit that grand slam. Like he knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, yeah.
And I mean, like the fact that you put that emotion, much emotion into a guitar solo, where I actually feel what you're doing.
You still there? Hello, Dally. We're
There
back.
you are.
I think I lost internet service or something, but I'll edit that together so we can start right here.
But I mean, seriously, it's like when you convey emotion with a guitar solo or a drum fill or something like that, where we actually feel it, you know, like and you see people air drumming or like that. It's like I God, Neil Peart did that was like the king of that. I my arms would be sore from being at a Rush concert from doing air drums the whole thing. So it's like it's amazing.
So I tell you what, man, we've been talking for over an hour. I could not be more excited for our new podcast. This is
Me too.
really cool, like a little intro to the people, because people are going to listen to us babble for an hour about nothing. And then hopefully it'll be a little bit more reeled in when we start talking about certain records. But what are some of the records that we're going to cover? I'll give you what I would like to do, and then I know you don't have to like talk about guests lined up or anything, but you can talk about some of the records that are kind of at the top of the list.
I definitely want to do About Time from Pennywise. I think that's a record that was after punk kind of blew up in '94. It was such a pivotal record because Pennywise is already they were already up there with Unknown Road, but I think I've already talked to somebody in that band and they're all about it. Um, I've also talked to
I'm just going to
somebody in
keep my
Papagani about
guitars away from Fletcher in case we ever
yeah,
hang again.
that was insane. I talked to somebody in Papagani about doing Today's Empires. They're all about it.
I'm pretty excited about that.
Yes.
I
So
think
I mean
it's
I
the same person that I had spoken with a long time ago about being on my original show, and he said yes, but we never got it together. I'm so excited to talk to that.
Me too. Uh, Probably the most excited I am is to talk. A strung out record, I think, is very, very overlooked, but also is an important part of the band. And the important member of the band was Element of Sonic Defiance, which was like
Hell
Jim Sherry
yeah,
had been
man.
fired. Jim Sherry had been fired from the band, and he was like their main songwriter. How are they going to move forward? Um, yeah, I mean that's just like a little who's who list I've of people that I've already talked to that are all about it. What about you?
Um, I just from you and I talking, I think it would be great to do that Longfellow record.
Be amazing.
I also really I want to have Riddle on to talk about some of the no use records. Like maybe we could just do an episode where we talk about a couple different ones
Yeah.
because I
Well, I mean,
think
him and I saw each other at Iron.
he's got stories for days, man.
Oh, absolutely. Well, we saw I saw him in Iron Maiden a couple weeks ago, and
Oh, you
I was
did? You
telling
saw him there?
yeah. So him and his wife were there, and I said I brought that up. He's like, well, maybe like do like talk about stuff here, stuff that happened on this record. I'm like, yeah, we can even just do like a whole little overview of the time of a No Use for a Name from Tiny Joint, which was more bitterness, to the last album, Feel Good Record of the Year. That'd be great.
Well, I mean, I want to reach out to Trevor. I'd like to have him on to talk about the self-titled.
I love that record. I think
I
that's
mean,
a
and
record that
honestly, if we could squeeze in Ignorance is Bliss in there too. When he was on the podcast, man, I hope he didn't get like angered at me because we were trying to push like something new. I think it was when their most recent record came out. And
yeah,
I think 90% of the podcast I was just asking about Ignorance is Bliss.
it's it's not out of the realm. 'Cause, I mean, it's like that song. I mean, that album changed.
I mean, it was so polarizing when it came out, and now it's like, I mean, I loved it from day one because
Me too.
I've been a metal, indie rock, emo, punk, whatever you want to call it. I love everything, man. As long as it's
Yeah,
a good song, it's a good song. But
absolutely.
but yeah, dude, when he was on the podcast, he was promoting. I think he was promoting his lyric book too,
Oh yeah. So
which is awesome. I love the lyric book, but it's literally like when we were getting off, I was like, okay, well, thanks a lot, Trevor. And then there's always like afterwards, like, hey, man, thanks. After we're not recording, and
yeah.
he's like, man, you really like that record, huh? I was like, yes, I do. I love it.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't mind doing a thing about Everything Sucks from Descendants because that was their
Hell
first
yeah,
record in 10 years. I wouldn't
yeah.
mind doing something about the first one or two, three or four Bad Religion records.
And you know
Um,
what's so weird about this? And I wish I could go back and like tell younger Chris that like we know these people.
yeah,
It's so fucking weird, man.
it's insane.
Like you're like, let's do a Descendants record. And I'm like, we can't do that. How are we ever wait a minute. We know them at least
Like,
somewhat, like I've had
well,
two of them on my fucking show. Like, God, it's weird. Sometimes I don't like, it's not lost on me
yeah,
when I'm hanging out, even talking to you, man. It's like, I love your bands. Like,
likewise.
it's never lost on me at all. Like, I was doing an interview a while back, and the guy was like, "What's it like being in a band with Matt Riddle?" And I was like, "It's fucking great."
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's like my high school dream. Like I can't even put it into words. So when we get to talk to people, like sometimes I will look, somebody will say something. Okay, so I haven't done the podcast much this year. I've been kind of the band's
Yeah,
been doing stuff.
by yourself.
I've been working. It's been like I love doing the podcast, but I got kind of burnt out doing the podcast.
Hmm.
Sometimes people will like hit me up and they'll say they just found the podcast because the back catalog still does really well every month.
Yeah,
And someone will hit me up on email or whatever. And they're like, oh, I really loved the Ben from Silverchair episode. And
that was a great one.
I'm like, oh yeah. I talked to Ben from like I forget, and then I'm like, what the hell? How was he on my show? Or like, I love the Jay Bentley episode. Like, oh yeah, Jay was on like I forget that they were on the podcast, and then it feels surreal that wait a minute, I talked to Jay Bentley for an hour and a half about nothing. Like,
When you did the Ben one for Silverchair, I was so stoked that when I saw that was coming out because it's always been about Daniel.
yeah,
And you don't get to hear about the other two guys. So to hear his point of view on stuff and just hear his story and all stuff was brilliant. I loved
Dude,
it.
the best part of that is that okay, so I went after that.
Yeah.
He had like some solo stuff coming out. He does like more poppy whatever stuff. And I saw that that was happening and on his Facebook page there was like a press contact, right? So I hit up his press contact. I sent my little link like, "Hey, I have subscribers. I interview people like it's a real deal. I'm not like a high school kid writing for a newspaper. Like it's a real thing." And I said, I love Silverchair. I'd love to have him on. We do mostly punk stuff, but it would be perfect. And when they got back to me, we set it all up. The day before, I get an email from his publicist that says, "The only thing Ben asks is that you don't ask anything about Silverchair."
Ugh.
So, what do you think my second question was? "Hey, dude, we're going to talk about Silverchair." I'm sorry. And then he just laughed, and like the whole thing was about Silverchair. Like I pushed his shit, which that's why he wanted to come on the show. But like
Chris,
I told him, I'm like, dude, we're gonna talk about Silverchair. I'm sorry, it's gonna happen.
Chris.
And then he was
Well,
totally
one
cool about it.
well, one guy I hit up about, and you're actually very, very close to them. I hit him up and I didn't hear anything back. I'm like, okay, so maybe I'll talk to maybe Chris will have to do his little finagling. But he finally got back to me 2 weeks later. Was Chris Rowe,
Yeah.
and I've that's one album my boys like that's always hit me hardcore is Blue Skies Broken Hearts,
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
and I want to hear that. 'Cause, I mean, you hear that first record too. That one, I mean, talk about a growth in songwriting. And he had Chris Knapp, kid, who I think, and he doesn't come from a punk background.
No.
You have Davenport, and I forgot who was playing guitar on that record. They had so many guitar players.
It was. I don't think John played on that record. I think John joined on that tour. I think it was maybe
Well, I
Marco
know Marco.
Marco
Marco did.
Pena, not 72.
Marco didn't do that. I know that for a fact. Marco joined the band on that tour,
Well, I'll
but
tell
there's
you, I'll
this.
tell you straight up, it was all the guitars were just Rowe.
Okay, there you go.
But I mean,
So,
I'm not sure who was in the band at that time. I know John joined later. John was in Beefcake and then joined later.
yeah,
But yeah, like I'm pretty sure that from Blue Skies on, if you heard a guitar on Atari's record, it was Rowe.
okay. I would just like love to hear his stories of being. I mean, Broken Promise Ring, 11596. It's like those songs sound so personal, and I just want to get his in depth.
I want to have him on just so I can make fun of him that the when we were doing demos for the as of yet Chinese Democracy unreleased Atari's record, he says one more time so many times when you're recording. Me and Brian. I don't know if you've met Brian. Used to be the Ataris. He was one of my best friends. But we
Okay,
were engineering these demos at our studio at the time, and it's like he'd mess up one more time. I'm like, "Well," for like 8 hours. One more time. One more time. One more time. We recorded it one time on our phone, and we like cut it together, and it was like a rap song of him saying one more time. It was pretty funny. I don't think I still have it, but he's a
but I mean,
perfectionist. If he's
yes.
Chris, if you're listening, I love you. You know I love you. You want it to be right, and I understand. Just maybe say like four more times.
Any record by Flatliners I want to do.
Oh, dude, Cresswell will come on for sure.
And actually, I already talked to him too, Trevor. He said he wants to do a he's down for a Wilhelm Scream record. I said, let's do a career suicide or a party crash or whatever you want to do.
Well, I mean, let's just shoot for the stars then. Let's for one of okay, for if we're gonna do one of the earlier no use things, let's see if Shift will come on.
Yeah, I would love to have him on for like making friends.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Foo Fighters isn't doing much right now.
Here, yeah, they canceled some shows.
Weird, man. I'm sure he's available.
Yeah, no, I'm excited about this too, man. I mean, like I said, you and I talked about this in Canada, and I'm glad that we're doing this. And thanks for trying to take this on. I'm stoked.
I think it's going to be great. And it's going to be a way to get me back into podcasting that doesn't feel like a job.
Well, and also I think it's going to get us back into like listening, going back to the catalogs of records too.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I love.
I'm excited and I don't know, man. I'm so glad that we're buddies
You too.
and yeah, you talk to some of your booking dudes. Let's get some high school reunion shit going on like we had in Canada.
I will see Steve in exactly 1 week.
Awesome. Steve likes us. I know he does. He's just
Yes.
busy, you know. We would be
I'll,
an
I'll
easy band because, you know, we only played like 7 shows last year.
yeah, I know. I'm all about it. And trust me, I'm going to be chewing on Steve's ear in San Diego. Trust me.
Okay, cool. And
Hey, you know,
I
he
saw
he
Steve in Canada. I gave him a big hug, but we didn't really talk much.
he owes me a favor. They're having their merch shipped to my house. They're picking it up on their way to the first show. So hey,
Well, see, if you do that and you pull it off, then I'll owe you a favor, and I will gladly owe you as many favors as you need. So
let's get Ben back on. We'll talk about Frog Stomp.
awesome, man. We will do. I probably could. I'll do my best to get him
Hell
on.
yeah, brother.
Okay, well, dude. Love you. I'm glad you're doing well, and we will set up the next one. And everybody out there listening, Vinyl Destination. Yes, I did a Google search. There is no podcast called Vinyl Destination, but there is, I believe, a band, but they didn't have the socials, so I took them.
Good.
And there is a podcast that put out like a special episode called Vinyl Destination, but it was like 8 years ago. So I'm just saying, fuck it, it's our name.
Yes.
And if you want to steal it, we stole it, so go for it. Uh, More episodes coming soon where we're going to tackle records we love. Dally, you're the man. I will see
You.
you very soon. And peace out, everybody.
Yeah.